Good morning, everyone. I'm Nisar Kudgunti, and welcome to our Webfolio Workshop organized by Google Developer Student Club, PVGCOT. I'm thrilled to see so many of you are here today, eager to learn about front-end web development and creating your own online portfolio. In this workshop, we will be diving deep into the art of creating a professional online portfolio that will showcase your online skills and work experience. You'll be learning from an experienced instructor and working alongside other like-minded individuals who share your passion for web development. I know many of you have been looking forward to this event, and I want to assure you that we've put together an informative and engaging program that is sure to meet your expectations. We have an accomplished speaker who will guide you through the process of creating a stunning portfolio website, as well as interactive sessions and hands on activities that will help you put your newfound knowledge into practice. I hope you all have your devices and internet connection ready. We hope that this event will not only help you develop your skills as a front end web developer, but also provide you with networking opportunities and connections with like minded people. At the end of the day, we want you to feel confident and proud of the portfolio you've created and the skills you've acquired. Without further ado, let's get started with the Webfolio Workshop. I hope you enjoy the event and feel free to ask any questions or raise any concerns you may have throughout the day. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our speaker and instructor for today's event, Sahil Dahekar. Sahil is a passionate front-end web developer with a year of experience in freelance web projects and building managing websites. Sahil has achieved remarkable accomplishments throughout his journey. He stood rank 2, top contributor in Social Summer of Code, and most work requests. He is working on creating a smart ID card for first year students of the college and a website to display achievements and activities for the mechanical department of PVGCOT. As a web team head at Student Connect Club and a web expert at Google Students Developer Club at PVGCOT, Sahil has demonstrated leadership and technical skills, inspiring many. He enjoys learning new technologies and applying them to projects that solve real life problems. Please give a warm welcome to Sahil Dhekar, and I'm sure we all are excited to learn from him today. Over to you, Sahil.
Yes, thank you. We need to understand like how we can create these layouts. Okay, so I have a PPT ready that will just explain in short about these different layouts, and then we could get started, of course. And of you guys have ever tried HTML and CSS, you must have written units and pixels. Okay, but pixels is like very absolute unit. Okay, unit something relative. So in CSS, we have this unit. So these are scalable units, and M is nothing but a unit which is related to the font size of that element. Okay, and rem is basically related to the overall font size of the HTML page. So we'll see this in practice while making the portfolio. Next thing we have what is called as flexbox. Okay, so uh, let me show you the example of this. So in our portfolio, we have these three cards. Okay, in a row. Now, how do you align these three cards? We use something called as flexbox, so which helps us align these cards in a row. So the when you apply this flex box, the content that is present within the container, the green color thing is the container, and these yellow things are items that present in a container. So they get aligned along the main axis. So by default, this is the main axis, the horizontal axis, and the vertical axis is the cross axis. Now, these are some flexbox properties like which we are going to use in our portfolio. So we'll see that in practice as well. Next, we have yeah. So when you apply flex to something, it will align us like this. And you also have other display properties like block and flex inline. So we'll see this in practice as well. These are some flex direction properties like when the flex direction is row, the elements are aligned like this with the direction of this arrow. If it's row reverse, then they are reversed. If it's column, then it's like this and like this. Okay. We also have something called as flex wrap. So if the number of elements in a container increase, so if we apply flex wrap property, they automatically get aligned into a suitable size. Like see, in this layout, 5 blocks are little bit congested, but if wrap property is applied, then we get 4 items on the first row and 1 item on the second row. Uh, then the justify content property is there. These are some uh, what you can say properties which you need to align your items within the container. Okay, so flex start will align the items to the start, flex end to the end. You can have space between, space around, space evenly, and center to align them within the center. You also have align items that will be aligning your items in the container along the vertical axis. So these are some properties. Then you have something called as grid, and within the grid, you have this property called place content, which helps you align items over of the grid. Okay. And then there's gap property, which can be used with flex and grid as well to just provide spacing between your items. Okay. So it gives you spacing between the items and not between the items and the container. That's one thing you need to keep in mind. And then we have these properties like grid template rows and grid template columns, which help us make these different layouts like this. So that's it with the layouts. Now, what I want you guys to do is just go to this GitHub link, which is called as GitHub PVGCUT, BSc PVGCUT Webfolio Workshop. I'll paste it in the chat, and you will find setup and other details over here. Okay, but though if you already have VS Code ID on your local machine, so you can try along with me as we are going to build this portfolio. So what we need to do is just click on this code button and download a zip. Okay, I have provided a starter as well as final product of this portfolio. So let's open this. Okay, just extract this. Okay, it's done. Now you just need to right click and open this with code. So it will open this in VS Code ID. So this is the user interface for the VS Code ID. And if you're wondering about the extension, so it is this extension, Go Live Server. You can go to this icon, this is extension, and you can also type here live server. So this is the first extension that you need to download. So here we have the final section and starter section. And if you click on the HTML, you get some starter template in which I've added the library for the fonts that we are going to use. I've linked the CSS file, as you can see here, with the help of a link tag. And these are some script tags that we are going to use for the animations that we are going to make, like the one present on the header with the cubes. So like this one, okay. And loading animations as well. Once you load, you get this smooth reveal, okay. And you have the assets over here, like the patterns and all that I've used, images I have used. So you don't even need to look on that. So let's start, okay. So the first thing that we see in our portfolio is this navbar, okay, and of course this header section, hero section, you can call. It has a pattern. This is a SVG that I've created, and then later on I've animated different elements on it. This is a call to action for scrolling, and we have the subtitle and title over here, little description. Okay, so to make this layout, uh, we have a two column layout. Okay, but whenever you start making a website, you should always think of making it responsive, right? To different layouts. So a good practice is always starting with mobile layout like this one and figuring out how your website would look like on mobile. So in this case, we just have a black background, okay, uh, logo sort of thing, and few items to scroll on the website like this, about section, skills, work maybe. Okay, so in this, what we have is logo. Uh, these three items will come in a list. Okay, and these items will be header and paragraph tags. And I'll be showing you how you can create this sort of thing. Scroll to action. Okay, let's get over here. So I'll be just copying the code from final and explaining you what I've did over here. So we need hero section as well. And we'll just take up the CSS as well. CSS, we need this. Then this, yes, hero sections. Okay, build this. In the CSS as well, before you start, I've provided the color thing that we have used. So this root thing is nothing but a class in which you can define your variables that you can later on just call with the names. You don't need to write this hex for the colors. And of course, the font that we have used, I've imported the link for the fonts over here. You can get your own fonts from Google Fonts. Okay, Google Fonts. It's a very good uh, website where you can get your fonts. Okay, so you just need to select the font, select the weight that you want. In this case, I've selected 300, 400, 700, and then you can get this import link, which you can put in your CSS, and also you need to put the font family. Okay, uh, I have done it over here. In the body tag, you can see there's a font family, and these are some default stylings that you need to apply every time you write your CSS. Okay, this will help you remove the extra margins, paddings, and uh, this box sizing. Border box is nothing but if you have, as we saw in the box layout, you have content and you have margins and padding. So with this property, what happens is when you apply margin and padding to some certain content, so the padding gets added to the original width. Okay, so like example, if you have this clock, okay, it has a width of 200, and if you add certain padding to it, so the padding will get subtracted from the 200 and not overflow over 200. Okay, so that's the reason for using this property. And of course, you have this background color property, as we have light background on different sections of the website, and then we can use the back background on certain sections. And also, we have smooth scroll behavior and overflow overlay for the scroll bar that we have created. You might not find difference, but it is a custom scroll bar. As you can see, it overflows on the content. Okay, and these are some properties that I've applied to the scroll bar. So with 12 pixel background color, some border radius, which will give us this curves that are present. Okay, you can just slide curves. And also on hover, we change this color to a little bit darker shade. Okay, you can see this. So that's it. And also we've removed the default text decoration from the anchor tags, because by default on any links you have an underline, and we don't want it. Similarly for the list tags. So for the navbar, what we have done is we need two sections, right? The first one is this black section, another one is this white section, and we have a logo, a list of three sections, and list of three logos. Okay, so we have a header section and another div called socials. Okay, so this socials thing is the white section that we can see over here. Okay, it has a link, and inside the link you have SVGs for different icons that we have placed, like for the GitHub icon, LinkedIn icon, Twitter icon. Okay, and in the header section you have logo, which is present in the anchor tag, and you have a list for different items in the list, like about, skills, and work. Okay, and I've applied different classes to it, like for the nav. And if you're wondering what this nav is, this is basically a div. Okay, just with the name nav. We call this semantic tags. They basically help us with web accessibility. Like the blind persons, they cannot see the website, so there's this thing that reads out the website for them. And for this thing to read out the website, if we are using this semantic tags, it becomes easier for it to read out the website. Okay, so let's and for making your website live, you can just press this go live server button up once you've installed the extension, and it will open the HTML file. So this is what the styles that we have applied over here to our navbar section. And this is a hero section. I'll just quickly accept the hero section as well. So again, you can see there's a section tag. This is also a semantic tag with the name section. Inside this as well, you have two layers. That is the content and SVG. So we of course don't need something on the mobile layout. Okay, so here you can see only the main part, that is the content, in which you have, again you have two divs. Okay, the second div is scroll action. This is the div that we've transformed it into this kind of scroll bar that we have made. And the first div in this contains the info that we want to place. Okay, so a header, h3, h1 header, and a paragraph tag. Okay, and if you're wondering how you should name the classes so that you can apply styles, so basically you name the first class, the section with the name of the section, and then you can, of course, name it anyways. But to provide a little hierarchy, I use the name for the parent section, and then what the current section will contain from the parent section. So content block and hero design. Okay, so I'll explain you the CSS as well now. So for the logo, which is this thing in our HTML, we want to have white space no wrap. That will, sometimes the text, this DOE thing will get in the second row, and we don't want that. We need our logo to be in one line. So that's why we use this property called no wrap. As you can see, if I remove this, overflows. Okay. So if we apply this, we get this. And font weight of 900, which is basically similar to writing as I want the font as bold. We have a font size, and as you can see, we have used the M unit. Okay, so default HTML will have a font size of around 16 pixel, and with respect to that, uh, different HTML tags like the header and paragraph tags will have their own font sizes. And from that font sizes, in logo, we are using anchor tag. Okay, so anchor tag will have 1.3 times more font size than its default size. So what is so this is the meaning of that M unit. And we have a color called tertiary 3 that we have defined as a variable over here. So it is this hex color. We can call this variable using this syntax var and in brackets 2 dash and then the name. And this text transform uppercase is used to capitalize all the characters. So if we remove this, you can see the difference. Okay, like this. And we have some padding. So padding, you can, I'll show you the MDN for this. MDN padding. So I've used the shorthand for writing the padding. It basically is, see, if you're writing two numbers in front of padding, the first number represents the top and bottom padding, and the second number represents the left and right padding. If there are three numbers, the first number represents top, the middle number represents left and right, and the third number represents bottom. And if you have four numbers, then it's individually top, right, bottom, and left. Okay. And you can, of course, also write padding top, left, right, and other things here as well. Uh, then next thing that we have in HTML is this UL and this list tags. Okay. So nav item is the class given to this individual list. So what I want is inside this nav item, we have this anchor tag. All right. Inside the list also we have this anchor tag. So we want it to be of color white. That is light one. As you can see here, this is the color that I've used. And we want it to have position relative. Now, this is another thing that we are going to use many times in our layout. So what position relative does is, uh, let me show you in the MDN as well. You'll understand it better. So position. So position static is the default position of the any element. And when you turn the position to relative, you can see this yellow block has moved out of its default position, and it has 40 pixels of distance from its top and 40 pixels of distance from its left. And if this element has to be position absolute, then it will be off from its default position and it will overflow above our content. Okay. And this 40 and 40 pixels left and right spacing will be done from the parent section. Okay. So in this case, this block may have parent section as the HTML page by okay. So it will have 40 pixels from the top of HTML page and 40 pixels from the rest of HTML page. Okay. So these are the properties that we are going to use. We are not going to use the sticky property, although you can read it yourself. So what we have done is for the A tag, we have written position relative, and relative to this parent position, this pseudo selector that is after, we can get this position absolute so that it is off from its normal flow. And this pseudo property after is used to place certain content before and after your HTML tags. But in this case, we have used this to provide the styling that we have over here, like the hover styling. You can see this line gets over the element when you hover. So how we can do this is place content, and you don't need to write anything in it. And this is the position that we want it to be. From the bottom, -3%, and from the left, 0. And default width is 0 pixels. Okay. And height, we want it to be 1 pixel. This is the background color that we apply. And this transition property, it basically animates, okay, the thing. So we want to animate the width. For what duration? So 0.3 seconds. And this is the animation type, ease in. So it will ease in. Okay. And when, so this is the default, the width is 0. And when you hover on the anchor tag, the after, okay, the after will have a width of 100%. So this is what this selector means. And next we have header and header UL. So in the nav container, this is our header, and header UL is this one. Okay. So what this means is inside of the nav container, the header tag, and what this means is the UL tag inside of the header inside of the nav container. So we want these things to be display flex. So as I explained to you, this is the header thing that we have. Okay. And this is the UL thing that we have, the about skills and work. So we want this UL to be display flexed. As I told you, it will align itself in the main axis, and the header also. Like I'll show you what happens if you don't align the header. Okay, just let me just remove it. Okay, so now as you can see, let me turn on this extension. These are not in single row. These are one below other. And if you want them to be in single row, we need to give flex to this header as well. So header will have the anchor tag and this UL in flex. Okay. And the UL will have all these three elements in flex. So now we have a complete header in a single row. Okay. Let me turn off this. And then we have some styling for the header. We want the background color to be black. So let me show you what happens. The default color is white. When we apply background color to be black, it is this. Of course, you don't need to use the hex everywhere. You can just turn this into variable. It will give the same result. And for uh, we have used this property to apply the same property to both the classes, and then individually the styles that we want to apply, we create another selector for this, and we can apply individual properties later on. This is just because we want to reduce the number of lines of CSS that we write. Okay. uh, so for the header UL, you want the width of 100%, justify content flex end, so that it will be at the end of the viewport. Okay. And a gap of 1.3 between different elements. Align item center, that will align this horizontally, vertically, sorry. along the center and padding right of 1. Okay. Now the social section. By default, we don't want it to display on mobile layout, so we gave it a display none. Align item center and justify content center. Okay. You can use these properties in media queries as well. And for the socials, you have again this default styling that will help your icons to align in a grid. So let me just get the media queries, okay, that I can show you what properties we have applied. So these are the media queries that we get. Okay, let's going to use this as well. So as you can see, on bigger layouts, we get this animation and this SVG and these icons as well. And for these icons, you need to have a specific width and height. And then if you apply border radius of 50%, then you get this circle thing. And this is because we wanted to uh, make a hover animation like this. So it will stand out a little bit, a very subtle animation. Okay. So what these media queries are, they are basically helping you to make your website responsive to different layouts. Okay. So we have something after 380 pixels. We have something after 580 pixels. Okay. Uh, so once your width hits 380, you can see some things change. Once it hits a bigger layout as well, these things will be added. So we have just, like I told you, the social sections was display none before. You can see this is display none, but we want it to be display flex as well. So after certain layout, like after, where is the socials? Okay. So after 930 pixels of width of the viewport, okay. So 930 will be somewhere around here. So after 930, we want this section to display itself and also the SVG to come on. Okay. So what we can do is after we can write syntax like this for media query at media screen and min width 930 pixels. And in that, we have the socials to be display flex and also the SVG. So we have the hero design to be display initial and transform translate minus 50%. That will bring this SVG uh, inside this hero section. So what happens if we don't do this? So it overflows in the other section, but if we translate on the x-axis, it makes it reduce 50% of its width. Okay. Mm, let's get back to where we were. So we finished with the header section, social section. Now moving on to the content section, we have a content diff and the hero SVG diff. Okay. Hero design. So for this, uh, let me show you. So for the social, these are some stylings that we have applied. On our, the you can see this shadow behind this element. So this is the box shadow that we have applied. Okay. So for the content in the hero section, okay, we need that to be display grid and place item, place content center. As we saw in the PPT, that's place content center will place the items within the grid in the center. So in the content div, we have a content block and mouse tagger. So inside the content, both these blocks will be placed at the center. So you can see that on mobile layout, these are in the center. Okay. And for this content block, we have applied some margin top and max width of 500 pixels. You can, you can adjust this according to yourself, okay? But uh, since I made this responsive, so keeping my different things, I've adjusted and made it 500. And the content title, subtitle, button, description. So these are these things: content, subtitle, title, description. Okay, and button is not there. Of course, can remove this off. So all these things will have margin and padding of 0. But you might say that we have applied the default stylings of margin and padding 0 to the body tag, right? See this. But for the headers, like the header elements h3, h1, h2, we need to again use these properties because by default they have some margin and padding. You can see this. Okay, so always you need to do this. Then we want our design to be display none by default, and when we hit 930 pixels, it will display itself. For the title, we want font size to be 2.5 times of its default original size, and this hollow thing is nothing but this developer thing that we have wrapped in a span, and uh, hollow class is applied to it. So what this does is it gives this text a color of dark, and then we can apply stroke, okay, of color white. So it gives it look like this. And for the subtitle, we want the color to be blue. So primary one is this color. This is the subtitle. A font weight of 300 that is lighter than the normal font. Okay. A font size of 1.2 ems and margin button of 0.5. And all these values are playable. Okay. You can toggle them and it will make you understand better why I've chosen these values. Okay. For the description, we want this to be lighter than the white. Okay. So we've applied this custom color. And whenever you have a color theme, okay, and you want some other colors as well, so you can just toggle these colors, okay, in between these things, so that will match all the colors that you have in your layout. Okay, so this is a tip that you can have. And for the description, we finish with this. And for this scroll action, as you can see here, the scroll action is a div, okay, and within that we have another div called mouse, and there's no content in it. But how we have generated this thing with this is these are the default stylings for the block that we have. Okay, and inside the this mouse, this has an before property as well, which has no content in it, but its position absolute, and we have made it height and width of 15 pixels, border radius of 50% with round these things around, and we have a little animation on it. Okay, and normally the height and width of this total thing is 20 pixels, and out of this 15 pixels is the width of the dot that is floating in it. And for the animation we want it to go from top 9% and 54%. Again, all these values are playable. Okay, so if I change this to any other value, suppose 12, so you can see this, it starts from a little below. Let me play more with this. Okay, so if I give it 25, from the right middle section of it, it goes to the bottom part and then it again comes to the top. So you can play with these values. I've made it just so that it looks clean. Okay. And what is this red ball and thing? So again, from our hero section, the hero design that we have already. So the red ball and thing is these things that we are animating. So again, we can using the transform. We are using the transform property and translating this around x and y axis. Like the first property is x-axis and second property is y-axis. So at 25%, we want this to be minus 25%, minus 25% on the x-axis. Okay. So this red ball is moving minus 25% on the x-axis, and then on 75%, it's moving on the y-axis, negative 25%. And between this is coming to this initial position. Okay. So this is how you can create an animation. And we added a delay of 2.3 seconds because when the website loads, after 2.3 seconds, we want this animation to trigger itself. And to go on infinitely, we added an infinite to this property. Okay. So similarly for the blue block and other, we have used the same thing. And the mouse text, uh, what is this? Okay, we don't have any mouse text, so we can remove this. So let's get to our next section, that is about section. Okay, so in about section, we have about me heading, a description, and these two patterns. Okay, so let's see this in extension. So as you can see, this is also grid layout. Okay, uh, for the mobile, we don't have this pattern over here. As you can see, we just have the about heading and description and this circle in the background. So how we can make this is easy. We have a div. Okay, in section about, we have a div, and in that div, we have a header and we have a paragraph for the description. And this thing, this is the SVG for the pattern that we have in the grid layout. That is the this arrow pattern. Okay, but of course we don't need it on mobile layout, so this will be displayed none by default, and we'll be just be using this about content section. So let's copy this thing and get it into a starter code. Okay, and we'll also get some CSS for ourselves. Okay, about content, title, description, this is it. So for the about section, we need display grid, and as we saw, this grid template columns property helps us to create columns, but by default, we want the first column to take up the 100% of the width. Okay, on mobile layout, and the other thing is auto. We want overflow hidden because the circle that we are going to add, we don't want it to flow in different sections. So overflow is hidden, and position is relative, so that we can place this circle in the background as per our needs, because this is position absolute and it positions itself absolutely to the parent element, that is the about element. Okay, so again we have used this pseudo selector and gave it a width and height, and border it is 50%, so it will make it a circle. Background color, and for the position we have used top and left, and adjusted the property so that the circle is placed like this. Okay, for the content, okay, then we have the title, description, and these two are wrapped in the about content section. So about content will have some padding. Also, this will have a position relative and z index of 2, because if we don't apply the z index, as you can see, is here. Okay, if we don't apply this, circle will be on top of the text, and we don't want that. So we give it a position relative, and z index will basically help you place certain content above that. Okay, so in this case, the circle is goes behind our text. And for the title, we have again font size. For the description as well, we have some font size. And this about accent is the second part. Okay, but on the mobile layout, we are not using this. Okay, so we have applied background light to it. And in the media queries, after certain layouts, as you can see, the about is having this pattern show off. So after 530 pixels, you see 90% of the width goes to the about content, and the remaining, that is 10%, will go to this pattern. And similarly, after I think 700, we have 80 and auto. So after we hit 700, as you can see, the size will increase, and at full size, we have 70 and 30% split over here. Okay, so that's pretty easy. You can do that. So our next section will be the card section that we have. Okay, so this section, the cards, and this what we have is a card inside which we have a CVG, we have a heading, and some text about your skills. Okay, so in this section, if you want, you can also add different technologies like HTML, CSS, and logos for them individually below this section. Okay, but to keep it simple, I've added these three headings. Okay, so let's see how we can make this. Also, you can see the cards are overflowing in the above section, and in the mobile layout, you don't have this, of course. I mean, we'll have them aligned in a column. Okay, so let's get to them. So this is the skill section from the file that we have. Let's put it in starter file, and also we can get the CSS for that. So we have a logo for the skills. Okay, so let me explain this thing in HTML. So we have a skill container that will contain the three cards. Okay, and for each card we have named it as skill item. So we have three skill items for three cards, and then inside each card we have SVG, which is present in the skill logo division, and inside the second division we have a header and the content that we want to place. Okay, we have named it as skill content. And if you're wondering what this is the default styling that we want on the icons. So we want them to be color blue, red, and this color. So we have applied in HTML as well. You can, this is called as writing inline styles. You don't need to write it externally. You can write it within HTML, but uh, we can use it generally for smaller CSS properties. Like in this case, we just want the color to be different, so we can use this. Okay, so let's move on to the CSS. So what we have done is for the skills, we need a background black. As you can see here, the background is dark. And for the container, we want it to be display flex, but flex direction is column. As I showed you in the PPT, flex direction column aligns everything in a column. We want it to be align item center. So whenever you have flex direction column, the vertical axis becomes your main axis, and the horizontal axis becomes your uh, what is cross axis. Okay, so align items works in the cross axis. So align items will align everything along the cross axis to the center, and justify content center will align vertically everything to the center of this block. We have a gap of 2 m between them, each card, and the padding with three numbers. Okay, so the first number represents the top padding, second number represents the bottom padding, and the middle number represents the left and right padding. Okay, and as I told you, we also have the flex wrap property that helps us, make this responsive. So this is the magic of flex wrap. We can see it gets to two cards and one cards on the bottom when there's no space left. And when you turn this even smaller, it makes it align in a column. Okay, so in each container, in each item, you have a logo. You want it to be of height, width of 2m and height of 2m. So this is the icon. Okay, we need of height 2m and width 2m. And for each item, that is the content within this each card, we also want it to be flex and along the column. Okay, and background color is this, a max width of 250 pixels, so the card doesn't become too big. Okay, so if we remove this, as you can see, we don't want it like this. So again, you can play with these properties to add your own values. We have some padding, border radius to give this curve. We also have some box shadow and position relative and z index 3. This is for the desktop mode. Okay, when our cards are overflowing in the about section. So in this case, we want our cards to be placed above this pattern and background. Okay, we don't want it to be hidden. So that's for that. And this I tag. So these arrows represent something within something. Okay, but this is the thing that you can do that I told you. This inline style, it reduced our code to write, so we don't need this now. Because and for the content, we want it to be text align center, because if we don't, it will move to the side. We want it to be text align center, so this is it. And of course, on different screen lengths, we have the flex wrap applied, so it will adjust itself. We don't need to do that. Just on this layout, when there are three cards in a row, we want them to be overflowing in the about section. So we give it a margin top of negative margin top. Right, I'll show you. So where is the skills content? Okay, so here the skill items, that is the individual card. We want it to be margin top minus 7m. So it overflows in the about section. Okay, so that's about this section. Then we can move on to the work section, okay, wherein we have our projects. So let's get the HTML and CSS for it. So this is the HTML, and for the CSS, we have this. We don't need the contact section. Okay. So once we add it in the below husbands, as you can see. So in mobile layout, we want our header to be featured projects and image of our projects. And in the second div, we want the heading of our projects a live link. Okay, so this is a link as well, a description of our projects, and the tags represent what technology you use to make the project, and also the GitHub repo link if you want to provide it. Okay, so these are some things. Again, uh, in feature project, we have a container that will have flex direction column. So all these three projects will be aligned along column, and within each single project, we also have flex, which will align this along column, or we can use grid as well. So now it makes sense a lot to use grid and flex. So let me just dive into the HTML first. So what we have over here is a heading in the section work. We have a header of featured projects, and we have a div called work content, inside of which we'll have a single div call for the first project, and similarly another two divs called work item for the second project. Okay, and inside its project we have we have two divs. One is for the image of the project, and one is for the content that we need for the project. Okay, uh, so header type of the project, inside of which we have a link. Okay, and the icon for the link. So we have used the font awesome icons library. Okay, for some sections. So let me go to font awesome. Mm, so we can find fonts over here. This is icons. And if we search something like email, we'll be able to find the font. Okay, SVG icon over here. And you can simply copy this and place it in span or I tag. Okay. So before moving on to the next part, we have a little announcement. So I request Nizak to please announce. Hello.
Hi Sahil, could you allow me to take over the screen for a moment?
Yes, sure.
So, hi guys, I have some exciting news to share with you all. Like, we are proud to announce the launch of season 2 of our newsletter, The Digital Dispatch. For those of you who are new to our community, the Digital Dispatch used to be a bi monthly newsletter that aimed to keep you up to date with the latest trends and news in the world of technology, design, and web development. We share valuable resources and tips along with stories from our community members who are making a difference in their fields. We received an overwhelming response to season 1 of our newsletter, and we are grateful for the feedback and suggestions we received. Based on our feedback, we have made some exciting changes and additions to the newsletter to make it even more informative and engaging. For the season 2, we have doubled our efforts to bring you each edition of the newsletter in a weekly format. So you will be getting an edition every week on Saturday. In season 2 of the Digital Dispatch, you can expect to see more in depth articles, tutorials, and case studies, along with some new grounds that we haven't covered before. We will also be featuring more stories from our community members. So if you have a success story or an interesting project to share, we'd love to hear from you. Subscribing to the Digital Dispatch is completely free and easy. Just visit our website and sign up using your email address. So be sure to subscribe to the Digital Dispatch today and join our community of tech enthusiasts, designers, and developers. And we have just released the first edition of season 2. Like, have you ever felt like a fraud in the programming world? Are you afraid that if someone looks closely enough, they'll figure out that you're not really a programmer? Don't worry, you're not alone. So this topic is covered in the first edition, Recognize and Conquer Programmer Imposter Syndrome. So it is live now, and it is written by a member of our editorial team, Prathamesh Kirad. So kindly check it out, and I'll share the link with you. It's completely free to subscribe. You'll be getting mails whenever we launch whenever we release an edition of the newsletter, and we'll also be sharing it on the WhatsApp notification group. So be sure to read it and be a part of our community. And thank you for your time, and Sahil, please take over.
Thank you, Nisar. That was great. Let's get back to where we stopped. About font awesome library. Okay. So you just need to sign up over here, okay, to get these icons. They will give you a kit, and this kit will have a link like this, okay, to use. So in this kit, as you can see, you'll have a link like this, which you need to paste it in the head section of your HTML, and then of course with the classes for the icons, okay, like email. So you can use this class FA solid FA envelope that will give you this icon. In this case, I have let me get to section here. Okay, In this case, I have used arrow upright from square. Okay, so which is the link. So this icon, and we have made it FSM, that is font small. If we remove this, so you can see this is a lot bigger than this one, and we'll add it again. SM. So we'll adjust it according to our header. And for the header as well, we have applied a pseudo class to make this our animation for the underline. Okay. And then we have the content in the paragraph tag. And for the tags that we have over here, the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Git. So we have made a div called W items tags. And inside that, we have an ordered list. And inside the list, the first list item is the GitHub button that we have over here. And other are the static tags, okay, like HTML, CSS, JS. So let's see how we can make this. And the second div is about the image in which we place the image tag. Okay, so let's go to CSS. So for the work, we have padding top, bottom of 3M, as we saw two numbers represent top, bottom, and right, left. For the work title, which is featured projects, we have margin top of 0, and we have font size of 2.5 m. Till now you have pretty understood these properties. Okay. For the work content, we need that to be flex wrap, of course. We want it to be responsive. Justify content center. In this case, the main axis will be our this axis. Okay, like the horizontal axis. We want it to be aligned center across the horizontal axis and a gap of 2m between each item. Okay, the work item, which is the individual project. Now, the work item will also have display flex and flex direction column reverse. This is because in the mobile layout, we need the image of the project first, and then we need the content. So we need column reverse. If we remove this reverse, as you can see, we get the content first, and then we get the image. So we need to add reverse, and in larger screen sizes, we can change this property. Okay. Again, within the items, that is between the image and this text of each project, we need some gap, which is 1m and a max width of 450 pixels. You can adjust this according to your need. Okay, but this will work good if it's 450 or less, because I tried different widths. Okay, for 500 it doesn't look that good. So that's it. For the title, that is the W item title and W item content. It is the title of this project, that is this part, and content is the this part, and these are the tags. So for title, we need the font size of 1.5m, and for the content, we again have padding, that is the distance between the text and this border, as we saw. And we have a border to this content. Content is this part. We have a border black and border radius that gives the curves at the borders, corners. Again, for within the title, as we saw in the W title, we have anchor tag that link to the project. So we need to address that as well. So for the anchor tag, we need a color dark, position relative. Okay, so that we can apply the hover animation of underline with the after pseudo class. Again, the similar thing that we did in map bar. There's no difference on hover. We need the width, that is 100% minus 26 pixel. So what is this? So this is newer CSS features. like the calc function, we can use this to calculate certain, we can use this to calculate numerical values. Okay, so for the 100% width, it will take up uh, the icon as well. So let me show you. As you can see, it takes up the icon as well, but we don't want that. So I did this using trial and error. So let me try 20 pixel first. Okay. So as you can see, it still touches the icon a little bit. So maybe 25 pixels and 26 is good. So again, this is trial and error. You can try it out if you're applying such a property. For the image, we need it to be display grid, place content center, and padding of 1 and object width cover. So what happens if we don't give an object width cover? Let's see. And of course, need to move this as well. As you can see, our image grows massively. We don't want this. So that's why we use object fit cover. And for the fit, for the image, we need to give width and height of 100%. So it will cover 100% of its space and still fit properly. Okay, a box shadow is there for this effect, and border radius is there to the image. Now moving on to the tags, we have margin top of 2m. Okay, so the difference between this description and the tags is 2m, and rest we have 0 and 0. We can write this like this as well, margin top 2m and margin of 0. It will give the same effect. Okay, but just to short, like we call this type of stuff as shorthand. So to write an in shorthand, we can use this. Tags get is the class given to the first list item. Okay, so you can see tags get, which is the GitHub button. So we added some hover effects on it and some normal properties like border padding and displays inline flex. That is, we want this to be aligned within the same line. So that's inline flex, a gap of 0.3 m. Okay, and other normal properties are there for the tags. Other tags like the tag list, we want it to be display flex, align item center, wrap, so that on smaller layouts the tags move on to the next row. Okay, and again normal properties like border radius, box shadow, padding and stuff. And this is another selector, nth of type first, that will help us to select the first tag. Okay, that is the GitHub button, and we can apply properties to it. Okay, it will have the common properties of tag items as well, plus this extra properties. What happen if we don't make this? It will look like this, and this is not what is expected. So we use this to make this stand out. Okay, again on different sections you can see it's responsive and it's adapting. This is with the help of media queries. Okay, and certain parts we have made this a grid. Okay, so where is it? So you can see skill items. No, that is not the part. As you can see, this work item, we have applied grid property to it somewhere around work items. Okay, let me just search for it. And yeah, here it is. At 1100 pixels, we need this to be display grid and 50% and 50%, and max width is unset. Okay, so as you can see, the it's the width of this content is greater than 450 pixels. Okay, so after 1100 pixels, we want this to be display grid, and 50% the part will be content and 50% will be image. And after we increase to even greater size layout, this will make up 60% and 40% split. Okay, so that's all that we have written in the media queries. Okay, now moving on to the next section, we have the hire section. Okay, so if someone likes your work, he might want to hire you or get in touch with you. So you need to add this section as well. For the styles, let's get to this. Okay, we'll add the footer styles as well. Okay, so I'll explain to you the hire tag and footer at the same time. Let me just add the footer as well. So let's move on to the mobile layout again. So this is what it will look like in the mobile layout. Okay, header with a custom question mark SVG and a button hire me with nice our feature and a footer that is created by, and you can add your name over here. And these are again some socials that you want to link if the user wants to get in touch with you. Okay, so in the higher section, we have a heading, as you can see, and within this span, we again have a SVG for question mark. Okay, and again we have a anchor tag, a hire me button, and the footer section is again simple, just like the nav bar. Okay, uh, you can imagine this as a logo and this as list elements. So we give it a display flex, and again for the list items we give it display flex, so it comes in a row. And then this is just the padding and margin stuff that we need to do to make this look good. Okay, let's go to the CSS. So for the higher section, we need it to be display flex flexation column, because we need title, and below that in second row we need the hire me button. For the mobile layout, for larger layouts, you can change this to flex direction row. Justify content space between. Okay, so on larger layouts, you can see these are apart from each other, so space between, just like navbar and footer, and some margin, border, and background color. For the title, again, we need display flex, because in the title we have this SVG as well. So we need to align this in a single row. So display flex align item center, that will align across the vertical axis. Okay, a gap of 0.2 m, font size and position relative, of course. I think we can remove this position relative as well. We don't need it. Okay, we don't need that. And in the higher title, we have a span and SVG. Okay, so in higher title, as you can see here, we have two spans, and within second span we have SVG. So these are the stylings applied to it. We need that question mark to be of width 30 pixels and height 40 pixels. And the higher button is here. So anchor tag by default has a display inline property, and when it's display inline, it overflows. So let me. So in this case, we have padding as well. But if I remove the padding, let me just remove the padding as well. So margin is there. Oh, this is the padding. I think we're padding to this. Yes. So no, this is not a property. In bottom here, as you can see, this will overflow if we don't have display block. Okay, so we need display block for that because if element is inline by default, so for the left and right padding, it will push other content to the left and right. But for the top and bottom, it cannot push it. Okay, so you need to apply display block to anchor tags sometimes. And again, some basic properties like font weight, you want it to be font 500. Okay, 500 is just larger than normal font is 400, but we want it to be just greater than that. So made it 500. Okay, text uppercase, color, padding, border radius, of course, transition because we want somehow an animation on it. Okay, and the button also has a span for that arrow. Okay, so we want it to be display none, and on hover we want it to be display inline so that uh, the arrow is visible. Okay, now the footer is also fairly simple. Display flex, justify content space between, align items, and of course some padding background color for this uh, name to be of different color. We wrapped it in a span again with the class name, and then we gave this display block so it aligns itself in the next line and a different color, that is yellow. For the icons as well, we have display flex and also some hover effect on it. As you can see, slight hover effect. Okay, this email will link to same section. Of course, you can add your email over here. You can add it like this. I can have something called as mail to. Okay, so this you can add your email to certain sections like this. So it will open up this thing directly once you click. Okay, so that's it. And now let's move on to the animations part. Okay, so how do you create this loading animations like this fading in? Okay, and also these sections are fading in. So we use something called as GSAP, and these two are the CDNs for this. Okay, so where did that found the CDNs? You can just put on GSAP the CDN. Okay, and in the first link you can find this link. Okay, just copy the script tag for the first link, gsapmain.js, and we need something called a scroll trigger. Okay, to give this scroll based animations like once we reach the about section it will fade in, and once we reach the project section this thing will fade in. Okay, so for that we need the scroll trigger stuff. So once you copied that sequence you need to paste it here at the bottom of the body tag, and inside the script tag we are going to write our animations. So let's just grab our animations. If you learn JavaScript, then you can, of course, create a different JS file for it. But for this stuff, we just need the animations, and this is not much content, so we added it in HTML itself within the script tag. Okay, so the scroll trigger is sort of a plugin in GSAP. There are more plugins, okay, that you can use. One of them is Flip. So first you need to register the plugin using this syntax. Okay, so gsap.register plugin and the name of the plugin, and we create a variable called t1, which is the gsap timeline. So we use timeline for the header section. Okay, we need this to be load one after another. Okay, so for the content, which is the this part of the grid. Okay, the 70% part of the grid, which is with the black background. What we need it to be. we need it to come from y is equal to minus 30%. Okay. So along y-axis, it will come from minus 30% with opacity 0 and for the duration of 2 seconds. And what is this power for ease out? So this is the animation graph for it. So power for ease out GSAP. Let me show you. Okay. We need to wait for to load. Basically, it's sort of a curve that decides the speed of animation. Okay, like it'll be slow at first and go increasingly fast at the end or something like that. Okay, we don't have the graph over here. Okay, wait. Maybe you can find some image. Yeah, like this. So what this graph explains is the power for animations are nothing but they start slow, then in the mid section it animates extremely fast, and again it slows down at the end. Okay, so this is the meaning of the graph, and we need to use it like this. Okay, so this from property will be applied to the class called content, and it will come from this positions to the default positions that we have in a CSS for a duration of 2 seconds. Okay, so it will look something like this in a starter file. So let me just comment out the other sections. Okay, and show you one by one how it looks. So if we add just to the content thing, we start, we get like this. Okay, this animating. Now if we add another called stagger one, and we need to make this come from opacity 0 to opacity 1 by minus 50. Okay, stagger is nothing but the elements that come one after another. Okay, so the first element will animate in some time, and after 0.3 seconds, the second element will animate. So this is it. And the second parameter, that is minus 1.5 seconds, is because we are using a timeline. And if we don't add this, let me just show you what happens. So it takes a lot of time, as you can see. So reduce the total time. We can add minus equals 1.5 seconds. So now it feels smooth. And this stagger one class is applied to different sections that we want it to stagger. Okay, stagger one. So let me just search. So you can see stagger one class is applied to content of the hero section, the h1 paragraph tag, the mouse as well. Okay, scrolling mouse. Similarly, we added some timeline to the hero section as well. Okay, and we also gave a negative duration to it, and we added something to this as well. Anim square is the blocks in the design that we have over here. Okay, so they animate out. Okay, as you can see once we reload, and for this I've used back and ease out config 1.7. You can adjust this according to your need. I've configured this. Okay, graph, so you can see that the elements scale up and then return to the original size. And for transition 2 and 3, these are the transitions in the about and work section. Okay, so we are using scroll trigger over here. So we want to target transition 2 class, which I've added to the about section, and transition 3 class, which I've added to the work and hire section. So when what is this top and bottom? Okay, so when the our scroll bar, so the bottom of our scroll bar reaches the top of the about section, it will start to animate. Okay. So this bottom, when it reaches the top of about section, this will animate. So refresh this. So as you can see, it reaches the bottom and this stuff starts to animate. And for top center, like for the work section, we need this to be top center. So when the top of the work project reaches the center of the scroll bar, okay, it starts to animate. So that's it. And we added some stagger, okay. So zero point 0.6 for work section and zero point 0.3 for the about section. Yeah, so that's it. And finally, you are done with this. So this is how you can make your own portfolio. You can make use of GSAP for animations, okay, and you can make it responsive and stuff. Now, what you can do with this is you can make this your own using changing these skills to your own skills, changing this projects and description to your own projects and description. And what I want you guys to do is create an issue on the GitHub link that I've shared, and maybe I'll guide you if you need some changes to your portfolio. Okay, then it will be good. So that's all about today. If anyone has any doubt, I can answer it. Hello.
Amazing session, Sahil. If you guys have any doubts, feel free to ask here or in the chat box.
Okay, thanks, Climber Rituj.
Also, if you do guys create your portfolio website, feel free to tag us on Instagram or LinkedIn and we'll be sharing them, your posts.
Also, if you like this portfolio, you can, just give us a star on GitHub as well. Okay, I've added resources as well if you want to visit this again. Okay, how you can host your websites for free. So this is a blog for free code cam that will help you deploy your website, okay, for free. And you have some other things as well. So for Flexbox, we have this blog. You can read about what is Flexbox and stuff. Okay. Similarly, we have it for grid. I also have it for GSAP and display. We have the final code as well. So you can make changes to it.
I guess we can conclude since there are no doubts.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you for joining, guys.
Yeah, thank you for joining us for the Webfolio workshop today. We hope you found the event informative, engaging, and most importantly, enjoyable. It was wonderful to see so many passionate and talented individuals come together to learn about front-end web development and creating a professional online portfolio. We would like to extend our sincere gratitude to our speaker, Sahil, who shared his expertise and knowledge with us. His insights and advice have been invaluable, and we are grateful for the time and effort he put into this event. Finally, we want to thank you, our attendees, for your participation, enthusiasm, and curiosity. It has been a pleasure to engage with you all and see you our progress throughout the day. We hope you leave this event feeling inspired, empowered, and equipped with the skills and knowledge to take your front-end web development journey to the next level. Before we sign off, we'd like to remind you that season 2 of our newsletter, The Digital Dispatch, is now live. We hope you will subscribe and stay connected with us as we continue to share valuable resources, stories, and insights with our community. Once again, thank you all for joining us today, and we hope to see you again soon. Keep coding, keep designing, and keep building, and let us bridge the gap between theory and practice.